call it a fine morning where I am. Fog this morning, lots and lots of fog, but at least I have an internet connection, although I have had to drive about 5 k's to get it. Sorry about last night's show, folks. We had a phenomenal thunderstorm come through last night. We've had them the last couple of nights, but last night was a doozy. And I don't know what it did. Well, clearly the cloud was thick enough to disrupt Starlink because I couldn't get a signal through it at all. But it also played around with Telstra. Now, I'm not sure if it was the storm that played around with Telstra or if it was something else. The Army have been very busy at the Dakota Barracks in the last couple of days. Lots of, well, I'll call it live firing, but I don't know if it was in fact live. Lots of firing, though. Too much to expect that they are firing squads, as I alluded to last time we talked about this. But they were certainly doing some pretty fierce practice, and they were letting go some very large explosives. We had the ground shaking for some time. Now, that's not unusual. It's an army base, and they do practice for those sorts of things. But, boy, was there some interesting thunder being used almost as cover for what was going on. There were big explosions, a number of very, very large bangs coming off the base. One in particular had a rumble that lasted better part of 30, 40 seconds after the explosion, and you could feel it through the ground. There are, I think, multiple explosions going on, and some of them are underground. Just got to keep looking for how, why. This road's pretty busy with Army and security, so we can sort of see that they've lifted their tempo there a little bit, but I don't know. It's too much to hope that the Australian firing squads are happening here. Just couldn't hope for that. I think they'll probably happen in Guam. But anyway, it's a nice thing to wake up to in the mornings. Internet coverage, though, last night, non-existent. So whether or not the boys on the base flicked a switch that made sure nothing worked in the area or whatever. And even this morning, I couldn't get any signal on the modem. I didn't actually try the Starlink. I just looked outside and saw the very thick fog, so I assumed that would probably be a bit of an issue too. And I've driven about 5 k's toward town, and all of a sudden I've got signal. I've got now 1 bar of signal, which is pretty weird because at this point we normally have quite a few bars. But yeah, anyway, there is some very weird shit going on. Paul, nice to have you up early this morning. Hello, Michelle. Nice to have you awake too. Earthquake close to you guys yesterday. You're down in Victoria, aren't you, Michelle? It's a interesting time, and it'll get more interesting when Donald Trump finishes his appointments for his White House beginning in January 2025. Have you heard that Alex Jones might become the press secretary? Apparently he's accepted the offer of the role, and the press secretary role would not probably last for 4 years. All they would need to do is have Alex in the role for a month or so, and I think he'd bring most of those journalists to heel. But yeah, what an interesting little development. The people that Trump is putting in to help him with his administration this time round, new names coming up every day. Alex Jones, I've got to admit, for press secretary is probably one of the better ones that has popped up. Elon Musk, of course, in charge of government waste. So yeah, what's it all mean? Well, keep watching Israel, keep watching Iran. Trump is obviously a big supporter of Israel. Iran has made a lot of noise about pushing back, and they will continue to push back. That part of the world is not finished with yet when it comes to war. There is talk that Zelensky now is going to be removed from Ukraine, from the presidency, or whatever they call it. Might be prime ministership, I don't know. No, it's President Zelensky, isn't it? Because he's become arrogant, because he's become far too aggressive, he's actually believing his own media and what his handlers have been telling him. Oh, you can win this war. No, you can't, you idiot. You've been used as a puppet by the West, and now the money is drying up, particularly the money coming out of America and going to NATO. So what's Zelensky going to do? Well, he can go back to his $40 million home on Lake Como, I suppose, or his $38 million home somewhere in Miami, or in certainly Florida. But talk is the CIA have had enough of him, and his usefulness is now at an end. What will they do? Well, there are elections coming up in Ukraine, and you could see him removed through the electoral process and a much more moderate person being elected. Doesn't mean that the deep state aren't going to control that moderate, but it might mean that the war against the Russians curtails somewhat. I'm pretty confident that Putin doesn't want all of Russia, doesn't want all of Ukraine. He wants the Donetsk region. That's pretty much the productive part of Ukraine, if you like, and where Russia has built over the years a lot of infrastructure. Here's a few of the army boys coming back in after a base, after a night out, and they've got lasers on top of them by the look. How interesting. We've seen a few of those floating around here in the last week or so. I'll go and do a little more research to find out exactly what they are, but I'm pretty confident that they are optical systems that are mounted on those vehicles. They're not, well, they might be weapons as well, but there are big optical systems on there, so they could be viewing some of the damage or assessing battle damage after the training they've done overnight. There has been a fair bit of training. They fire things off here day and night, so you get a few people out in the bush spending a night. Like last night, they wouldn't like it. It was very jungle-esque last night. Pouring rain, tropical rain, huge lightning, and the thunderstorm went for hours, as they have the night before as well. So I don't know, interesting times. If you look at the weather modification that's been going on, not just in Queensland, they modify all different parts of Australia to get a certain result in one or other areas of Australia. There's been a fair bit of that going on here in the last week or so. Of course, Queensland experiencing, not just Queensland, but other states too, experiencing some of the highest heat temperatures very unexpectedly for this time of year. Right now, the place is shrouded in deep fog. Deep fog. So above that, who knows what the day will hold? Probably a little more heat, we would suspect, which will be great. It'll just draw out all the moisture out of the ground. Speaking of out of the ground, I haven't shown you the new animals yet because we've spent some time settling them in yesterday and making them a little more comfortable. I'll go down today and shoot something there and give you a bit of a look at the alpaca, the miniature goats that we've now got, a couple of ducks that are living now my next door neighbours. I'll tell you a story about one of their eggs. Very unpleasant, but it's going reasonably well. The alpacas have settled to a point. They're eating. Everybody's eating. We're all happy. And a little bit of an update on Josie. I planned to go and see her this morning. The plan was to go and do that yesterday, but I got caught up on the property. I'm going to shoot to the carers this morning and have a look and see how she's going. We'll do a little live from there so you can get an idea of what's happened if you're just catching up on the news. Josie, I was very worried about her on Sunday night, or Sunday. So we'd been putting antibiotics into her, fighting an infection in one of her arms. I didn't notice that there was a great deal of improvement in that arm. In fact, if anything, it looked to be getting slightly worse. So after a long conversation with the carers, it just happened to be that one of them was going past the vet the next day, so we we arranged to have her go and visit the vet. After a bit of an examination and an x-ray, it was discovered that it's her left forearm is broken. Not a bad break, which is great, but it is a break, and they've straightened it now, and she's in a little splint or something. We'll go and check that out. So she and I gone out in sympathy with each other by the sound of it. Anyway, I'll go and get her today. We'll have a bit of a look and see how she's going. I don't know that she'll come home with me today. She might stay with the carers another day yet. Part of the problem that I had been having, which I thought was me, but it turns out maybe not, is getting her to feed. Now, she was not obviously feeling too well and didn't particularly want to feed that much. It was taking us an inordinate amount of time to get milk into her. And when I say a long time, I mean could have taken an hour and a half to get 30, 35 mils into her, and you'd have to reheat that a couple of times because it would go cold. She wouldn't drink it if it was the wrong temperature. She barely drank it if it was the right temperature. So hopefully a couple more days with the carers and they will get her back on the bottle in a way that I wasn't able to. And then she'll be heading back home with me in theory. That's the hope at any rate. And certainly the expressed desire of everybody involved. So if that happens, then happy days. She will be on the road to recovery and spending a bit of time with all of us. Don't know what I'm going to do with her when I'm heading to Victoria, because I am heading to Victoria. There is a big event happening just outside of Chuka, the My Place Get Together, the big camp out, 29th of November through to the 2nd of December. And then Vince and I will be making a little bit of a trek throughout Victoria, across Victoria, up into South Australia, and then down to Mount Gambier on the South Australian border for the following weekend. That's December 6th and 7th. Pardon me, Kath, I think, is arriving on the 7th to do a Freedom Financial Solutions chat about self-managed super funds and that sort of stuff. Also, if you're interested in learning a bit more about outside of the freedom movement, then she'll be able to help you out with that as well. If you're interested in gold and silver, then Michael Ingerman will be coming from Brisbane to have a chat about that. Thanks to Ainsley Brisbane for their support too. And that is happening on the 6th, 7th and 8th of December at Mount Gambier at the Blue Lake. Beautiful part of the world if you've never been to the Blue Lake. And look forward to bringing you some nice pictures from there. So should be a fun trip. After that, back on a plane heading back up here. Not sure what I'm going to do with Josie for that week or so that I'm going to be away. I'll have to see whether or not. It really will depend on how fit she is and whether she's feeding correctly. There are people here on the property that I potentially could leave her with, particularly at this stage where she really just lives in her pouch pretty much 22 hours a day. We get her out to feed, we get her out to have a little wee and a poo every time we get her out to feed, but aside from that, she spends her time in the pouch. She is still very young, her bones aren't fully developed, not really ready for hopping around the backyard just yet. You know, it'll take another couple of months to develop those sorts of strengths in her. And God willing, that'll be exactly what happens. So bring you up to date with her a little later on, and more pictures, or some pictures at least, of the alpaca and everything else that's turned up at the property a little later on this morning. I'll let you go and get your breakfast underway. I'm about just whizzing in to go and buy some milk, and I don't know whether I'm feeling like wheat bix this morning or cornflakes or look, no, I'm not going to have Cocoa Pops, but I'm feeling cereally this morning. So I'm going to go and buy some milk, very rare for me, and some cereal. Try and do the right thing. I am doing the right thing health-wise. Thank you for people who've asked about that too. Yes, I am taking a supplement. I am taking a supplement called Fix, I beg your pardon. And it's something that you put in your drink, your favourite drink. It doesn't matter what that drink is. Water is probably preferable. I wouldn't necessarily put it into soft drink, although I have. I think it was working pretty well. The body has gone into shock since I broke this wrist. I've also not been able to do as much work as I was previously, so I feel some of the weight that I had lost, I've put back on. Don't know why. It's not that I've been eating much worse or anything. It's just that I'm doing a lot less. In fact, probably more than half less than what I was doing prior to breaking. That's the most annoying thing for me with this wrist. I can't do stuff. Can't do what I would ordinarily do. Like picking up a bag of feed yesterday. It's all well and good if you've got two hands to pick up a 20 kilo or 25 kilo bag of feed, but I got one good hand and one good arm. Still managed to get it where it needed to go. It's just not the most delicate of processes. We might film that and give you a bit of a laugh for the Friday free-for-all, hey? All right, so that's my short little update. Apologies last night, and even still this morning, the internet at home isn't working. So I've come out this morning and managed to get this one bar. I suppose if I got a bit closer to town, it might have worked, but I was eager to talk to you. So there you go. That's the story from last night. We will pop up again throughout the day on the VoF channel, this one here. I'll throw a couple of videos up and show you our new alpaca area, although really they'll be spreading themselves over a much wider area than you'll get to see today. And I'll show you these cute miniature goats we've got. They are absolutely wonderful. Starseed, good to see you up, Chris. Keep and stay healthy as much as you can right now. Absolutely. High Vibe Foods, yep. Oh, fruits, you're 100% on that. In fact, I'm going to buy some fruit while I'm in here today. I have been enjoying apples recently like no tomorrow. Pink Lady apples, to be precise. Never was a Pink Lady fan before. I was always a Delicious fan. So, anyway, things have changed. I seem to like Pink Ladies now. So, yes, I'll be buying some apples, and I do share them with a few of the animals on the property. I've got to tell you, we've got some of the goats come past and do enjoy an apple with me in the mornings. And the bananas at the moment. Have you had bananas recently? My God, the bananas at the moment are just magnificent around here. So, that might have just triggered me. Cornflakes with banana on top. I'll probably get there and all that'll be left is bloody muesli or something. But anyway. Hey, Stab, nice to have you in. Thanks for becoming a member too, Stab. I saw that the other night in the show. Really appreciate it, mate. Appreciate it. And I think you're the first. So, ta-da! If I was giving away badges, you'd have the first one. But yes, thank you for doing that. Angelina, you've been going crazy on the watermelon. Ooh, I haven't seen watermelon here at the local. I will have a look. I like watermelon too. I've also been juicing, although my juicer broke, which is difficult to make juice when the juicer breaks. You might recall a little while ago I did the celery thing I overdid the celery thing is probably the best way of describing what I did. But that didn't turn me off juicing. And in fact, I've been pretty regularly having what I call a sunrise drink, which is celery, carrot, a few other bits and pieces, orange, a bit of pineapple, a bit of apple. And it's just beautiful in the mornings. Just beautiful. Until your juicer breaks. Dropped it, broke the thing that does the juicing. Not smart. Now I've got to go, if I want a juice, just like the one I used to be able to make, for about $2.50 at home, I've got to pay $9.50 for it at the shop. It's very hard, very expensive, very hard to be healthy when they keep charging you $9.50 for a drink. You can blend them and sieve them. Okay, yeah, a little bit of extra work. And take that thing that I had, the juicer that I had a sieve in it. It worked pretty well. That was part of the thing that broke, sadly. Pete, nice to have you in from your part of the world in South Australia. You had a crack at the effective power and you're on generator. Yeah, that was the other thing last night. There were generators going off around the property left and right, which is a little weird. There is enough solar on people's properties to not really need the generator to be kicking in, but last night the generator was running on one of the properties for about 4 hours. That's a long drain on the day. Don't know why that was the case. I have no doubt somebody will come to me today and say, find out why that happened with you. So of my new job, finding out why things happen on the property. Won't that be fun? Oh, you caught up with Tim yesterday, Pete. That's great. That's great. I'm pleased for you, mate. Tim's a great man. I'm sure you would have had some interesting discussions. And were you picking up an H2 unit? Did you get an H2 unit? Of course, we're talking about Tim Dwyer. Tim Dwyer, marvellous man, very good with Constitution, but exceptionally good with electronics and really flash with hydrogen. If you have a diesel, even a petrol-powered vehicle, but I've got a petrol-powered one it works well on. Diesel it works better on. It'll improve your mileage out of mind, out of sight. So he has a couple of units at the moment that he's selling cheaply or cheaper for Voice of Freedom customers. If you are interested in getting a hydrogen system on your vehicle, whether it be a work vehicle on the farm, if you've got a big tractor or trucks or something you use a lot and can do with a smaller fuel bill on, then give it a go. You can email Tim and get all the questions answered at h2@vofhq.com. h2@vofhq.com. All right, folks, I'm going to whiz into town. I have the stamp of approval for cornflakes and banana, by the looks of it, for breakfast. Do you coat that in sugar still? Asking for a friend. Be safe on the roads, folks, particularly as the fog is still pretty heavy around this part of the world. It might not be where you are, but be safe. The dickheads hide in the fog. They hide behind the trees. They just hide behind steering wheels. They're everywhere.